Hello beauties! I'm going to share with you today a few tips. I realize everybody deals with breakage. So the first tip is use sulfate-free shampoo. Sulfates, parabens, what are they? They break down the proteins in your hair. So what that does is actually weakens it. It makes them susceptible to more pollution and dryness, just a lot of yuckies that we don't want. Sulfates can also potentially cause skin irritation, even eye problems, I've heard. So sulfate-free shampoo. Tip number 2, now that you have the right shampoo, make sure that you are not scrubbing your head in circles. Now, I know this seems silly, but if you only go in a back and forth or up and down motion, it prevents your hair from looping together and making knots. And your hair is also wet, so it's at its weakest point. The last thing you want to do is knot your hair up while it's wet, especially. So back and forth, like with the hair between your fingers, up and down, all around, but never in circles. Especially if you have hair extensions. Cannot stress this enough. Do not wash your hair in circles when you have extensions. Third tip, now that you've shampooed your hair, you want to condition, but not if you are putting your conditioner on soaking wet hair. When your hair is soaking wet, straight from being rinsed of the shampoo, it is completely waterlogged. All the pores in your hair are full already of water. When you go to put on your conditioner, it will literally just slip right off and go down the drain. Very important tip. Let the water whisk down and you just squeeze as much water out as you can. Do it a couple of times because the water will drip down and fill the pores again. So wait until your hair is not dripping, and then do a nice pump of conditioner and you fill it in. I also highly recommend doing your comb out while your conditioner is still in your hair because it will act as a lubricant and your knots won't be as stubborn with conditioner in your hair. So get a nice wet brush, detangle gently, pull them apart, be gentle. That leads us right to tip number 4, which is never brush your hair from the top to the bottom. You want to grab the very ends, delicately detangle them, and work your way up from there until you get to the top. Otherwise, if you just start right here and you rip it straight down, you're just gonna be pulling chunks of your hair down with it. All the tangles will just be ripped from your head. I know, it sounds scary. It is. Now that you're out of the shower, your hair is wet, you wanna use a nice soft, preferably a hair towel, which is a microfiber, high quality cotton towel that will gently lay on the hair and just slurp the water out. You don't wanna rub the water out of your hair. That will just create all kinds of unnecessary tension on these little tiny baby hairs. It will actually rip the hair out if you aren't careful. So I would highly recommend getting a hair towel, dabbing it all dry, getting at least 75% of the water out of your hair before you even think about a blow dryer. Getting the proper towel will actually help with the speed of this drying. So get a nice hair towel. I can put the links for those towels in the description if you don't know where to find one, and that will be a game changer for you. So after you've taken most of the water out of your hair with the towel, you're going to assess what kind of porosity you actually have going on. So what I mean by that is right here, like my blonde hair is extremely porous. It's my most delicate part of my hair. So I'm not gonna begin with drying those hairs as harshly or as often as I would these hairs, which are stronger, darker, they're healthy, new growth that is going to require more time. So what that all means is just start by drying the root first. Pull out the hair sections, kind of give them a chance to breathe, get the blow dryer underneath here before you pull it through to here. And you barely ever have to put the blow dryer on the ends of your hair. The ends of your hair will dry most of the time by just the heat that's already in the brush. So focus on drying the roots and then at the last second, you can just pull the brush through until they feel dry enough. You never want to make them crispy dry. When they're crispy dry, they are just so susceptible to being broken. It's like a brittle cracker. It'll just be very easy to break. So only dry the root first. Tip number 5, only dry the root first. And that brings us to tip number 6. Now that your hair is all dry and fabulous and you've gone and lived your life and done things, you come home and it's time for bed. So you decide, I like my blowout, I'm just gonna throw it up in a ponytail and go to sleep. This could be one of the worst things that people do to their hair. It's not just when you go to sleep with a ponytail, but also when you're at the gym and your hair is sweaty and you just keep pulling it tighter and tighter. Pay attention to the tension that's in your hair, and sometimes you can even feel a little hair here and there just being pulled so extra tight that they actually do get pulled out and will eventually cause recession in your hairline. So tip number 5 is pay attention to how tight your ponytails are and do not sleep in a ponytail. When you roll around on your pillow, it's creating unnecessary tension and pulling on the smaller hairs in the front of your hairline. So when you sleep with a ponytail, your head moves around in the nighttime, and that pressure, depending on which way you're facing, is just gonna tug on the hair. Just pay attention to the tiny hairs. Pull them out of the ponytail if you have to. If they're not long enough to go back there, separate them, let them be free. You know, just try and avoid pulling in that section, especially on the hairline. Okay, so those are my 6 tips for keeping your hair from breaking. Maybe you knew some of them already, maybe some of them were new to you, but they're all very useful and I have been living by them, and it has definitely made a difference for me. Let me know if there's something else that you are having an issue with. I'd be happy to address it. Leave me a comment, send a message, and I will see you next time.